Syd Barrett of the Pink Floyd. What an odd little interview this is. It was done in London in 1967. I talked to other members of the group, but the tapes have been lost. I do recall they were all pretty ticked off at Syd because here the Pink Floyd was finally making it. They'd released their first album, The Piper at the Gates, and Syd had written, or he'd co-written, 9 of the 11 songs. And now he was essentially non-functional. Apparently Syd had been taking a lot of trips, and his eyes were so open it was like looking down into a tunnel. There were no barriers. I had to stop myself from tumbling down inside him. I think I now know what it's like to be Alice in Wonderland. The interview just sort of ends. It was obvious that it wasn't going anywhere else, so apparently I decided that's all there is to that. Here's Syd Barrett, London, 1967, 40 years ago. Wow.
Do you mind if this is so okay?
Yeah, whatever. As I say, these things are so edited that, but in a very good way.
Okay. Well,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'll say, for example, painting at an art school, or painting, say, in infant school, the initial desire to paint, or initial first successes at painting, arise, I think, out of a very genuine, basic drive, one way or another. So, and because of families and social setups, they're channeled into success or otherwise, and through schools and such like, and one gets different things. And I think, and of course one comes across teachers and people like that, teaching and sort of instruction and to talk to. And they came, and I feel now that having left art school, that there are a lot of things that I could do, a lot of things I see now, a lot of things that went into my head, and thinking that these were perhaps changing and altering things. For instance, I made a painting the other day, and I see and hear very clearly sort of different instructions and different criticisms going into the picture, which were in fact criticisms that I could relate back to art schools and teachers and various things that had come at that time. So maybe this would be very valuable, this break. I don't know, and sort of to try painting again after a break and going into pop music and going to playing this sort of music. Just might work out that you get more sort of basic freedom. I don't know. It's something to just things like shape of the paper, and there seem to be a lot of assumptions taking place.
When you say criticisms, you meant your own criticisms of your work. Is that what you meant, or did you mean outside other people?
Criticisms that yeah.
They were your own criticisms of your own work.
Yeah.
That were sort of put into you by teachers and so on.
They were what I was channeling into my own criticism. Yeah. They were what were governing what I was doing, while it was happening.
Do you ever get, I don't know, frightened by, I use this word because it applies to me, by the systems that, I mean, this in a sense, I don't know, could be a better word, but this in a sense is, is a system when you realize that the criticisms that you're using have been put into you, sort of conditioned or whatever. But when you realize more and more what it is that controls, or the systems that, system upon system, and sort of working your way through one into another, does this really bother you? Or even frighten you? The feeling that you'll never be free, that you'll always be a prisoner. But maybe you don't have that feeling.
Yeah, I do.
Do you think you can be free if you can realize, get to a point where you realize, more and more and more systems, perhaps?
I think maybe
the realization sort of freeing one.
Yeah, well, yes, slowly in time, well, it happened with this painting. Having finished the picture, I got through a lot of things. It's quite enjoyable, And the idea is I would like to get hold of that and be able to assimilate the system as it comes in, rather than, see it as it goes out.
Do you find yourself in patterns and constantly repeating the same patterns over and over?
Mm.
What are you working on at the moment inside yourself? Do you know?
Yeah.
Do you care to say?
I can't. It's sort of. I can't really say, because it's obviously taking too much time to think about. It's not really difficult.
Do you ever feel when you see people, or do you often feel when you see people that you could tell them something about themselves that they don't already know, perhaps? Or do you look at people that way? I feel you do, that you really sort of absorb people. Do you?
No, I think there's something about wow, it really gets pretty involved at this stage. I can't see it. Yeah, there is I certainly do get a feeling of what people are like, and the complication comes out in talking, but this only comes out at certain times because of a feeling that the talking is in fact a far less valuable thing than and it's almost superfluous to everything else, to sort of general, I don't know, sensing people and sort of value of people. But at the same time, it's a contradiction that words and talking to the people should be difficult in any way. So one is hesitant to say, no, I can't say anything, And knowing as well that this is something that occurs only at times, and at other times it doesn't. And it's cool.
Yeah, maybe that I think more in terms of words when I, see someone and have an impression. I mean, like, your impression of me, which you must have, would you care to tell me and be, like, absolutely honest? Do you have one?
In words.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, really be honest. And I'm asking this because you may have something to give me, I don't know. And not the general things, I mean, whatever, what the main thing that sort of hits you, and I'm not asking for a personality critique, because I know enough about myself that I don't need that.
Well, there's so many different things that on different levels that I could say, the impressions of you. So I give us, I don't know, maybe the most strange thing is meeting you at all. Sort of just saying, very strange to meet you. I mean, it isn't really strange. I mean, it's not many people that sort of one can. I mean, interviewers and such like, and you came into that class. Sort of used to. I mean, generally, you just sort of say hello and to get to say the questions and go again. I don't know. I don't know. Wow.
I feel you're holding back. That's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I mean, I don't. It may be something that sends me back, and it may be, probably not anything I'm going to want anyone to hear. I mean, sort of.
Not at all. I understand. I think I learn a lot from you. And the thing that you see, there's the. I mean, I know. I feel from you that you're not really. That I could say anything and do anything, and you would. I mean, you're recording it, and that's cool. And but I could, and I know that applies to you, to me, and you. Because really, you are. I assure you, you can do anything you want. But and in talking, I mean, that includes if I wanted to say nothing, or if I want to act in an extraordinary way, then I feel that too is justified.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Because it's like, except it's probably not an equal balance, because what I'm doing is being very intimate and recording it, but also I feel very responsible. And when I say I edit, There's certain things that, that I simply don't use. And it's a sort of ethical thing, a sort of, what to say, sense of justice, in a sense, which I have a very strong sense of justice. That is, not going to someone and being intimate and getting them to talk about things, say, which sometimes is not difficult, things that are really bothering them, that is, it can be personal relationships, or something like that, and then using it, which I don't think should be. I don't know, do you see, in a sense what I'm saying is that I feel conscious much of the time that I am recording, but I also am trying to communicate silently to people and say, it's all right, that is, it's if there's anything that, a person feels bad about, or what I was talking about, opening up, which, at a certain point, working on something unconsciously and not knowing, not consciously knowing it, or maybe a little bit of it consciously knowing, and then running into someone, and somehow or another a conversation is struck off, sometimes immediately, and they tell you something, and maybe they go off and you never see them again, or maybe you see them sometime later. In short, they're like someone said, about whenever she needs to be told something, she'll find someone who will tell her. They'll just pop up and they'll tell her, and then they go off again.
Yeah.
And it may be a friend, so it isn't this sense of one meets them in the street, though it could be that even,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a funny thing. That's why I asked you that. Because I don't know. Maybe in a sense there's something I could tell you. I don't know what it would be. And the same thing, I've done this a couple of times. Not in interviews. But when I met someone who you could see in their eyes is depth, and they're saying, do you have anything to tell me?